Welcome to the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast, where we remember a time when stacks of cards were held together with rubber bands and Mickey mantles were put in bike spokes. We hope you will enjoy and reminisce as you come along with us as we tell stories about the baseball cards from the Golden Age of Baseball. We will examine the state of the vintage baseball card market and talk to some of the greatest collectors in the hobby. You won't be hearing us talk about any chrome or shiny cards here. Now, to take you on this retrospective journey, here's your host, direct from the shallow end of the gene pool, my son, Mike Moynihan.
If you've been in the hobby for more than a day, then you know how fast the sports card market moves. There are now more options than ever to buy, sell, and research your cards. One of the most frustrating hurdles in the hobby is the fees when selling your cards. You know, those other popular marketplaces, the ones with their average seller transaction fee of 10%, the ones that don't have the seller's interest in mind. Wait, what? Who would do that? Well, hold on to your horses. No, not those horses. Welcome to the Card Flip, a place where we want to provide a simple alternative to buying and selling cards. No clutter, just you, graded cards, sealed wax, and the easiest of transactions. So what do you say? Are you in? Great! Welcome to the Card Flip, the seller's marketplace.
Yo and hello everybody. This is Mike Moynihan. I'm the host this week and every week of what is this show called? Golden Age of Cardboard podcast. Just kidding. Well, kind of not kidding. I kind of forgot in the moment. You never know. I got so many things going on. How do you keep track of it all? But man, I am getting really stoked. The National is coming soon. And I'm just, I can't tell you. I just get jazzed. I get excited. It's just so much fun. And, you know, there's a Dallas card show between now and then. You know, I think my son and I are going to like a show over in Dallas where the Dallas card show is, but it's more like comics and Pokemon, and they'll have sports cards and I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Not really a Comic-Con. It's like a Texas collector convention or something. I don't know, but my son wants to go to it. So I'm taking him. That's next weekend. So there's just tons. I say this weekend, I should say, by the time you hear this. And yeah, just lots going on. And yeah, we got Hobby Palooza coming up too in the next couple of weeks. That's on July 10th and 11th. And this guy is going to be a part of it. My guest tonight is going to be a part of it. I'll just bring him on now. We're going to talk vintage tonight. We're going to talk all kinds of stuff. And that's John Newman from Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. What's up, John?
What's up, my hey? I don't feel bad. You forgot your name of your own show. On my show, I called your show the Golden Age of Vintage rather than Cardboard. So at least I just messed up one word and not the whole. I feel a little bit bad because you pointed it out. Hey, the name of the show is Golden Age of Cardboard. You mentioned you said vintage, and I actually did feel bad because I like to say things whether it's someone's name to pronounce it right, or obviously someone pours their hard work in their show. The least I could do is get the name right, and I screwed up the one word, which is, in my credit, it is vintage based show, so I had the right idea, but you forgot the whole thing. So I now feel a little bit better. I can sleep a little bit better at night now that you did that. So, but well, happy to be here, Mike. It's awesome.
Yeah. I'm glad to have you because I was on your show and I appreciate you having me on your show. And it's always fun to reciprocate that. And because, you have an audience, I have an audience. Sometimes they cross over, probably a lot of times they cross over. Sometimes they don't. And hopefully people watching this will find Sports Card Nation as a podcast and maybe want to go start checking that out. We can all help each other in this crazy thing called content creation. I think that's hugely important and just awesome. And hey, we both got to be on Dr. Beckett's show with our dads, and how cool was that?
Consecutive days too. The one he did sort of a part B with us, and then you and your dad on the same day, which was cool. By the way, it was awesome. I listened to that whole week father and sons, and did a great job. It was a great idea to do that week, and you learn of what sort of inspired us and who kind of came before us, and why we are maybe a little bit of who we are, and I think that came out. I'm sure that was the point of it, and like for your dad, I don't know if you heard my dad, who he's probably going to start his own. He doesn't know what he's doing, but it sounds like he might want to start his own podcast. But for guys like that, and to talk about things they love and memories they have, and with your dad with tools and planes, and planes meaning the tool, the plane, and for my dad to talk about growing up in Brooklyn and the Dodgers and Ebbets Field and Joe DiMaggio, even though he wasn't a Yankee fan, he was a Joe DiMaggio fan, and sort of emulated him. You could see, and I'm sure with your dad, you could see sort of that spark, that enthusiasm, them kind of light up again, and whether it's for 10 or 15 minutes. And I mean, that whole day, I spent that day with my dad, like he was on cloud nine, and at 83 years old, that was fun to see. We had just, the week or two before that was not a good time for our family with the loss of my stepbrother, and we kind of, like I told Dr. Beckett, the timing of this just seemed to work out great, and really sort of made his day, and my son had fun. He was on there as well, and as always, I talked to Dr. Beckett, probably whether it's via email or other conversation, but it's still always, I enjoyed seeing my dad and even my son Jordan sort of interact on that level. I got more enjoyment from that, and hearing him, make fun of me too, as was always fun too. But it was great. It was well done, and I enjoyed hearing you and your dad talk about your history, not just hobby, but obviously as it's just that father-son relationship and lessons and life lessons. And, it's important. That stuff's very important.
For sure. So happy belated Father's Day to everybody out there. By the time this airs, it'll be a week or two past, but, you went to the Dallas card show, the last one back in, was it May, late May?
Yeah. May 22nd. Just shows you so.
Time's flying. We're almost to the National, but that was your first time to come to the Dallas show, and you also got to come over here to my house, and it was awesome to have you here. And I hope you and Brad were here 2 hours, 2.5 hours maybe, and you barely scratched the surface, right?
I knew that, and number one, first off, I know I thanked you already, but I can't thank you enough for opening up your home, letting us see just some of that history. I mean, those are pieces of history. I don't care what anyone says, whether you like cards or you don't like cards. To see and touch and look through, and like you said, that was even just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. And I was on fumes, but it woke me up, gave me a little second wind, and then it was the last thing I did, quite frankly, before I got on the plane to head back to New York, and it was probably one of, if not the highlight of the whole trip. It was right there. I hate to single one thing out, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't right there at the top of that weekend, and things I saw and did. And again, thank you. And being there, something I had already sort of kind of an idea that I was already sort of tinkering around in my head. It was that trip to your house and your card room that really, pushed me over the edge, if you will, in a good sort of way, to do a new thing. One of the things, Mike, and the Dallas show was great. This isn't me picking on the Dallas show, and I've always have vintage. I have some vintage stuff, nothing along the lines that you do, and I appreciate vintage. But, in walking that Dallas show and just seeing all that new stuff, and it just seemed to kind of be a blur. And I still appreciate it. I'm not knocking it, but it was something I was thinking about, was just, pivoting more especially on the PC side of what I do, which is I don't PC a lot. I want to sort of PC a little bit more. And if I'm going to do it, I kind of knew in my mind it was going to be probably more on the vintage side than anything else. And so between just kind of walking that show floor and just seeing a lot of shiny new sort of a lot of places where it just it just seems like it's the same stuff and different spots, and then kind of wrapping up the trip, visiting your card room and appreciating that stuff you don't see at every table. Let's just put it that way. That's a nice way of putting it. I said, man, I want to do something more like that. Ronald Lacuna is great, but you show a PSA 10 update and there's 10,000 of them, let's say, or I don't have it in front of me, but there's no shortage of them. Let's just say that. But when you have the stuff you have, Hall of Famers, vintage cards, just seeing them in general is nice, but to see them in some of the conditions and graded forms that you have them, it just inspired me to like, hey, I want to do something different. I don't PC enough, and what are you going to do, John? And so what I decided to do is sort of take a page from your book, but I know I can't replicate what you're doing, but what I'm going to try to do is in no timetable, no sort of I have to have this many, but just have fun with it. Is just get the Hall of Fame players, rookies in graded card form. In the best can, great. Someone asked me like, what grade? Just I don't really have a set rule, just in the best grade I can with what the budget allows. And speaking of budget, I heard your budget show and very well done. So,
Thank you.
And I actually have one. I had one planned before I heard yours, and so in mine, I recorded it already. I haven't released it, but I give props to you.
Thanks
for doing it too. So
it is funny how we all kind of people think they can come up with a new idea, and it's hard to. It's genuinely hard to, but you can put your own spin on it. You can take an idea that's been done, and you can say, look, this is, there's been some videos done about XYZ. I want to give my spin on it. But when you were saying about the inspiration, and I've been inspired by all kinds of people I've seen on YouTube or things I've listened to or having conversations with other collectors. I always am sparked by inspiration to go in different directions and start different projects. And I actually love that. I don't, if I had to come up with everything myself, that would be kind of boring. And to that end, you being here, getting to see what you wanted to see, got to see, and kind of pushing, like you said, over the edge of starting that type of thing. There's probably a lot of people out there, and this is kind of the theme of the show that I really want to kind of run with for a little bit here. Then we'll talk about some other fun stuff. I'm just going to call this episode a conversation with John, so it's going to be, but the theme, you and I had talked about this was, okay, hey, Mike, thanks for having me over. You've got me kind of go. We've had this conversation kind of back and forth through messages and talking and whatnot. And it got me thinking there's a lot of people out there probably wanting to start collecting vintage. And whether you've been in the hobby a long time or you're just getting back into the hobby, or you've never been in the hobby and you're just starting in the hobby, and vintage for a lot of people seems intimidating, I think. And it's scary because you're spending, well, you can spend lots of money on new cards too, right? I mean, but there is, the money aspect of it, the wow, I'm putting all this money into this. I hope I'm not getting duped or, goofed on. My phone is blowing up for some reason. And all right, so where I'm going with that is maybe we can talk about some, okay, like both of us have been in the hobby a long time.
Yeah.
But what are some things people can think about? What are some things people can look for if they're wanting to, kind of start diving or even just dribbling into the vintage world? because it's a scary world. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, you make a great point, Mike. For me, it's not scary, but I have 30 something years in the hobby. I had a store, I sold vintage. But if someone who might not have, and I hate the way this is going to come out, maybe that background or pedigree, if you will, it can probably be daunting, right? Like they're seeing all these news reports of, Mantle $5.2 million and this vintage card $3 million. And so probably right off the bat, they're like, I'm not even going to be able to do this. And so that's the first obstacle is like to realize that person needs to realize those are, high grade, rare cards that are bringing that kind of money. There's plenty other stuff that's in your wheelhouse that you can afford. And so the first obstacle is to realize that, that's not all, that doesn't speak for all vintage. It's just sort of the Mount
Upper
Everest.
echelon. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then once you realize that, then you have a lot of directions you can go. I like graded cards, you like graded cards, but you can buy vintage raw. And then you could always turn the cards you purchase raw. If you then in turn say, hey, I'd like to get these graded, can always, submit them and then get them slab. So if you want, and that might even be sort of the fun aspect is to, try to pick out, the best raw copy you can with your eyes at a show or a selling platform. And then in turn, kind of grade yourself with like, how did I do here when I did submit it and what grade did I get back? Or you can do sort of what we kind of do is we buy cards graded, kind of save sort of that process too. There's really no wrong way to do it, if you ask me. And then the other thing is, like anything else, this doesn't just apply to vintage, but it definitely applies to vintage, is shop around. You got so many selling platforms from going to shows, the in-person transactions to all the selling platforms we're all aware of, eBay, the CompCs, My Slabs for graded cards, which is where I picked up some of my recent Hall of Fame rookies, and and other platforms. I'm sure I'm leaving someone out unintentionally, and so even Sport Lots for raw vintage cards. I don't, grading, what shape they're in is up for debate. But even on that site, they do post pictures of cards as well, so you at least get sort of a visual scan on some of them. So there's plenty of avenues to find it, and at different price levels for whatever you're speaking of budget, your show, but whatever your budget level is, and that budget level can always change. Like if you're buying raw specimens, if you will, and then you want to get them slab, the slabbing's going to cost you, but maybe at that time it's something you can budget for, and then turn your raw collection into a graded collection. So there's just so many avenues and different routes to take, and that's the fun of it, Mike, as you well know, is the no wrong way really to do it. As long as you do a little homework. And I mean, everyone's fear is get ripped off, or like you said, duped, or maybe taken advantage of. And there's plenty of guys like you, me, and many others that I know you get questions, I get questions, and I'm more than, and I know I speak for you, we're more than happy to help someone or steer someone in the right direction, or answer a question, at least give our kind of 2 cents or opinion, just from the experience we have to help someone out. So there's no shortage. If someone's a little unsure, there's plenty of good people out there that can help you as well, and use those folks, utilize them if need be.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I have a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks, right? And there's no in our hobby today, it's like the quick buck, the quick this, there's all this money changing hands and all these trades and all this. Vintage is the slow game. It's the long game. It's the slow burn. And that's critical for someone getting into vintage to understand. I've been in the hobby 40 years. People look at my collection, they go, man, I'd love to have something like that. And I take that as a compliment and thank you. At the same time, it took me 40 years to get here. It's not like I just woke up one day and had all these cards. It's and this isn't meant to be discouraging. It's meant to be realistic. I've been doing slabs and really hard core into vintage for over a decade. It's 10 years or 11 years. So it doesn't happen overnight. Do not expect it to happen overnight, but that's the joy of it. That's the great part about it. You mentioned diversity, and I've done a whole episode on how many different projects you could do, like you're doing, John, with Hall of Fame rookies. You can do just your favorite player, your favorite team, your favorite set, raw, graded. You can do. I did a set because I thought it was cool, a cool idea of last card of every Hall of Famer, because I thought, man, that's neat. You get all their stats on the back on their Topps card. You get weird uniforms that they might be in, as they're playing out the string on their career. Those types of just whatever you like.
Even seeing how they age, what they look like from knowing, them as a younger player. And, it's interesting always to see even that aspect of it, So
I think that the vintage game is way more diverse than the modern game, at least in baseball. And so even with all the products that are out there that Topps puts out and Panini puts out for baseball, I still think vintage has so many different ways you can do it that it makes it so diverse that anybody that loves cards and loves the history can enjoy vintage. And the other tip I would give to somebody, or a tip I would give to some, not the only one, but obviously do your homework. And when I say that, I don't just mean learning about the cards, learn about the players, learn about the stories. There's a mythology to baseball that's unique, that is not carried over to other sports in the same way that it's carried to baseball. There are numbers and stats and games and World Series and things that are just, again, mythological in this game. And if you take the time to go learn it, if you're interested in that, you shouldn't just buy vintage because you're going to make money. I think that's a dangerous game to play, period. In the vintage game, it's not that you're going to get burned necessarily. It's that if that's your end game, seems very empty to me. It's so much richer if you'll let it be vintages and the stories and everything. And I mean, think about the things like you talking about with your dad and having memories of players, and you'll want to get a Joe DiMaggio card, not because you ever saw him, but because your dad still told you stories, and you have a connection with that is special.
Yeah.
And, there's just, again, so many ways to skin the cat in the vintage.
Yeah. And even the cards themselves, Mike, when you,
I know you started doing Hall of Fame rookies. What have you picked up so far?
Well, I had some. So I mean, full disclosure, I had not a huge head start, but I did have probably, including all sports, including like football and basketball, I probably had like 20 already that I sort of had kind of listed for sale or somewhat listed for sale. And I just pulled those out and pulled those off if they were listed somewhere. I deleted the listing, and I'm keeping what do they call them? A card clubhouse box. They slide in. They got individual slats. Now I have a display behind me that holds PSA slabs. So some of my better ones will make that. I have another one on that wall over there. So some will be displayed. Some are on my desk and stands. So they're, the ones that can't make either the displays or the stands will be in that card house box. And, so I took what I sort of had already and put them into that card house box. I added, I kind of went after some guys I sort of had an affinity to, Mike Schmidt. Yaz was, even being a New York City kid, I was a huge Carl Yastrzemski fan. So I got a nice Yaz PSA 5. I got I think the Schmidt is a 4. I got a Brett, which was a 6. And my next one high up on my list, and I print it out like all. So as I get them, I cross them out so I know what I have and what I don't. And so the next one that's sort of high on my list is I was always a big Harmon Killebrew as a younger kid guy. That was the one thing, to pat myself on the back. Even being a New York City kid and originally a Yankee fan, then later on into a Mets fan, I love baseball, period. And so I appreciate all those the greatness of those players and what they did. And I actually have a sort of an affinity for guys like Killebrew who didn't do it in like a big city and maybe was sort of overlooked by the mantles of his day. And when you look at, what he did, he was sort of overshadowed by Mantle, but a great player in his own right that just didn't play in the New Yorks or the Los Angeleses or even the Chicago. And, he played in Minnesota and Washington. And so I sort of lean that way. And, I'm just going to pick them off and that way. And like you said, it wouldn't be fun if I was just a billionaire and I just went on eBay or whatever platform and just bought everyone that exists. There's no, sure, it's fun to own them and get them and the mail days and all that part of it, but it's just easy to do that when you maybe live in that stratosphere, which I don't, obviously. But it's going to be fun, sort of. Hey, which one do I go after next? Right? Just even, I'm sure you've had those same, decisions in your own mind. Hey, which direction? Maybe you even almost have like a vote in your head. Hey, I'm getting one of these two. Who's it going to be right now? And then, I'll have to put the other one, whether it's a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, whatever that budget entails. But which one do I want right now? And some of that might be, not even just affinity towards the player or the career, but like even, I know we don't talk financials, but sometimes I'm sure that's, comes into play. Like, hey, this one is, has a chance it may move in price where this one probably going to be there at that same level when I get to it. So maybe I should get this one now and then come back on the back nine and grab that one. And so that's the fun things is how you build this thing and how you do it. And sometimes, as you well know, it's maybe just it's not the first card on your list, but you go to a show and you're walking around, you just see a great deal on a card that's on that list, maybe not at the top of your list, and you're like, hey, it's time to grab that. That's kind of a steal. And that's fun too.
Happens all the time.
That's the fun parts, like a movie twist, right? A plot twist. You didn't see that one sort of coming, but there it is, and you're taking it home and adding it to the collection, to the project. And so that's the fun of doing something like that, is even though you might have a game plan or a plan of attack, so to speak, you can go off of it, or something just happens like that and you are off of it, and you get, you plan on getting 2 cards off your list and you take home 3 or 4 that way. And you're like, hey, that's a good day at the card show. I went in to get 2 and I'm leaving with twice as many. And it didn't cost me much more than I sort of budgeted for, per se, because 2 were really great deals in this case. And so that's the fun. And you can just go in different ways. I'm focusing on baseball, but I've got my football list. I've got even a basketball list and a few hockey, especially on the Ranger side of things, which I'm a huge Ranger fan. So it's any way you want to do it. There's really no wrong way, and to each their own. And that's just something I decided to do, and I'm having fun with it. And I bought a couple, like I said, the Schmidt, the Brett, the Yaz. I had a couple more on my watch list. And then when I was, when I knew I was definitely going to the National, I said, you know what? I'm going to actually slow down my buying here and just kind of bank that money and just bring it with me. And what better, it's more to me. And I've said this on my show. I don't know about you. I enjoy buying a card in person more than I do online.
It's a memory.
It's
a memory.
And I know people say, the mail day, the anticipation of opening mail, you don't get that in person. And I get that, but that in person talking to the seller and maybe bartering with them. And I've been on both. I set up at shows too myself, so I'm on both sides of that table. But there's something about that social interaction you get, and sometimes you get the story from the dealer. Hey, how I acquired this card, and like you said, the stories that go along with the acquisition. And so I said to myself, at this point, if you're going to national, just kind of hit pause on the online purchases and go to national and see what you can, use that money put that in the national budget money. And so that's what I did. And, I don't know if you want to segue, but then kind of talking to you before we, went live here, I didn't realize how the market, I mentioned market correction to you. And speaking of correction, you corrected me and said, John, we're in a market crash. And I didn't think so. And then you pulled up a graphic and showed me some stuff of where cards were at peak and where they are now and the percentages. And you're right. And because of that pause where I wasn't really paying that attention, I say this all the time on my show. I don't know everything. It's just everything changes. I said this on my show. If you take a week off, you're gonna have to catch up. And so I had no idea until talking to you tonight that was going on. I knew what was going on in the modern day. I actually thought the vintage would be a little bit more, if you want to call to that. Yet we see, I learned it's not through you. And so, I don't know if that's good or bad, and going to the national and saving that money. I don't know. Maybe it's good maybe I'll get stuff cheap. I guess that's a question. I know it's your show and I'm turning a question around on you. How do you think, the dealers, do you think they're, what I mean? Are they still going to try to price it sort of not at those levels, it's a big show and there's going to be a lot of people there? Or do you think, in other words, is it going to be a tug of war where, consumers, the buyers, people like us say, hey, this is what it's going for. This is what I can pay or around it. And, is it going to be sort of who blinks first type of deal?
Well, two things. Number one, if you'd have just listened to my podcast, you would know that I did the episode last week about the crash.
I'm usually pretty good, Mike, in my defense, but sometimes we both come out sometimes on Fridays. And sometimes don't feel bad. I don't even I always listen to my show at some point on Friday just to see any sound issues or anything like that. And I didn't even that Friday, I'm not just saying this, that Friday I don't even believe I listened to my own episode. So in my defense, but it's going to be listened to, I promise, tomorrow. And I'll write on a piece of paper, I will not listen to Golden Age of Cardboard on release date. So 100 times. But I'm definitely, when talking to you tonight and learning some of that stuff, I'm definitely want to hear that episode. But with the net, I mean, how do you think this plays out as far as buying opportunities?
I think it's going to be great for buyers, and most sellers nowadays, and maybe you saw this a little bit at the Dallas show, they're pretty on top of what reasonable comps are. And most of them understand that most card buyers are pretty savvy too. We're not just going to come and pay whatever price is there because that's what they stuck on it. We're doing our homework. They're doing their homework. And I think because of that, you get a lot more malleability of prices where it can be, hey, look, he's got X price. You want to pay some amount less. And you can make again, I didn't pay sticker price for anything in Dallas, and I don't at any show. If I can, I just walk away, because even in the vintage market, there is real scarcity versus perceived scarcity or manufactured scarcity like there is in the modern card world. In vintage, there is real scarcity, but at the same time, they're not all one of ones. And at the national, you can walk down the aisle and you'll see 3 more. I mean, I remember, and I've told this story countless times, but it applies here. When I bought my Hank Aaron rookie, I looked at 100 of them, before I bought one. And I had a friend with me and we were looking at them together. I was, not just trying to make an emotional decision about anything and price and all of these facts. How does the card look? All these things. There were plenty of them to choose from. And so that's true of most every vintage card. There are obviously exceptions to that, no doubt. But the reality is, if you're buying a Harmon Killebrew rookie, for example, if that's kind of a card on your radar for Chicago, you're going to have no problem finding plenty of the entire spectrum of Harmon Killebrew rookies, from PSA 1s to PSA 9s. And you'll have plenty of opportunity to buy that card. And if somebody's not willing to deal, say thank you. Make a note of where that table was, just in case there isn't another one that you want. But you'll be able to find another one. And I've played dealers against each other. I'll see a card at a table that I kind of like a little better than the other one, but I'll say, hey, this other guy's got a PSA exact grade for $200 less. I'll pay you that, but I'm not going to pay you. I'll just go over there. And sometimes they say, well, then go over there. And sometimes they say, no, I'll do the deal. I'm okay either way. I'm either going to buy his for $200 less, or I'm going to walk down to the other table and buy that one.
You know what price you're getting for, because it's the lower the two. And as a dealer too, Mike, I've had that situation, and then as a dealer, I have a decision, right? If I believe that person's being honest about it, I mean, that's a factor too. And then you got to decide, do I want it, I don't want to say lose a sale, but do you want to make the sale? Or do you want to give that sale up to, someone else potentially? And, I guess it depends. I just wonder if dealers, especially on the vintage side of the house, Mike, are going to say, this is sort of temporary. Maybe I won't put certain things out. I'm just going to wait. I have this stuff, but I'm not even, maybe I don't even bring it, or maybe it just stays in that shoebox, and I don't want to sell it for what it's at right now, but I believe what it's at right now is going to rebound back up. And so for me to sell it now, I rather not. I'm just not going to put it out. I'll sell all the other stuff or whatever else I want to still put out.
I agree with you that there will be some dealers that probably do that. What I'm afraid of that we're going to see, and this will really be disappointing, is dealers that are stuck in their cards for, let's say they bought some vintage throughout the peak period, those few months of February, March, and April, where cards were just going nuts. And now they're down 50%, let's say, on a certain card, just on, value in terms of just recent sales and comps. And they're going, look, I'm just going to use, let's say it's a $500 card and it's really selling. They bought it for $500. It's selling for $250. They're going to have it in their showcase for like $550 just to make something. And they're going to say, look, I'm already into it for that. I hear that I'm into it for more than that. I'm sorry, I can't. And my answer to that is, it's not my problem that you're into it for that much. Sorry. I'm willing to give you green dollar bills for a piece of cardboard. You can take it or not. And if they say no, I walk away. That's fine. But I think we're going to see a lot of dealers saying, I'm already into this card for this amount. What you're asking for is too much of a haircut. I can't lose that much on this card. And it's a shame. And
as a dealer, Mike, let me kind of give my take on that, because I've done something along those lines. So if I have a card like that I know what I paid, and hey, the market changes, or I made a bad decision. Some of it's on you too. It's not always the market. And so now, it's a card I bought for $200 with the hope, I'm going to sell it for $400. That's where the market's at. I bought it off someone selling it, but then the market drops to where it's selling for $200. I'm not, to me, I don't like to not put stuff out. That's sort of, I try not to, but I probably wouldn't. If I either do one of two things, I put it out there and sell it for $200 or even a little bit less. So either break even or lose a little bit and sell it, or I won't put it out. But I make a point. I've never tell someone, hey, I'm into it too much and I got to get that. That to me doesn't work. And
have you heard that before? You've heard that before, I'm sure.
From as a buyer, as a consumer,
as a buyer. Yeah.
And I just say, like you said, you kind of summed it up for me. Like that's that has nothing really to do with me. That's your own transaction. Like, you have to me, when I've been in that situation as a dealer, I have a choice. I can either sell it at a break even or slight loss, or I don't. If I think it's going to rebound, not everything's going to always go back up again. So you got to decide, like, put out. I'm not going to give anyone a sob story. That, I hate to say it like that, but hey, I paid. Right. I know they're selling for 200. I paid 400. Bad deal by me, and I want you to get me out of this bad deal and overpay for the car. That's really what you're saying. And who's going to do that, especially in today's day and age with online? Everyone's got their phone out. They know where they can hit buy it now, whether it be eBay or somewhere else. And so, if I'm either going to sell that card at either that loss or break even, or I'm just not going to, that's going to stay in my box, and I'm either going to forget about it or hope it rebounds to the point I can throw it out there. But I'm not going to insult someone's intelligence and say, hey, I know the market rate is 200, but since I paid 400, will you pay 300 or 350 or,
yeah,
I'm not going to have that conversation. It doesn't speak well of me, and you're almost insulting someone. You're asking someone to pay more than what they can get it for. And I don't know if my own son would buy that off of me under those terms. So why would I ask someone I don't know as well? That's just, I don't know. That's just how I've been in that situation. We've all, as dealers, and someone does show, we've all bought something that doesn't always keep going up, where it goes down. And I'm not going to, then you have that decision to make. Just put it out there, for, maybe a little bit higher, knowing someone's going to barter with you, and you can just, say, hey, I'll get back what I got into it, and on to the next card, next collection I buy or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know why do dealers feel like they're entitled to make money on every transaction. There's no guarantee on any of this. So,
nope.
And then I have a funny story. I was at the National in Chicago last time. The last National, sadly, was in Chicago also. And I had a card that I wanted to buy. I can't remember what it was. It's not important. And I showed the guy literally a buy it now for half of what he had it for. And I really wanted the card. And I said, look, I'll pay you this. I could go buy one right now. And he said, no. And we had a conversation. I said, but it's right here. And so right in front of him, I bought that card on eBay, right in front of the dealer. And I said, look, you just missed out. And he didn't really care. I was kind of just being a little sassy because I was pissed that he wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not lying to here.
I thought you were going to say, like, he quickly, bought it now on you and said, no, you can't. Now I have.
No, I bought it right there in front of him and said, all right, you missed out. Sorry. I could have paid you money for cardboard, but whatever. And I'm just not afraid. I feel like as a buyer, I really have all the power.
Yeah.
Because they have the card and they're stuck in this card for whatever they're stuck into it for. If nobody comes along and gives them money to help them continue their business, that's on them. I can keep my money if nobody wants to sell me cards at prices I want to buy them for. And I'm sounding really harsh, but this is just reality.
It is. Listen, we work hard for. This is, someone who sets up at shows and does shows. Did my first show as a 15-year-old. Probably people tired of hearing it. But we all work hard for money. I don't do shows full time. I have a job, so. As a consumer, I see both sides of it, but you can't expect someone to pay more to you than they can get it for. I mean, that's sort of a nervy, ballsy way to think. Who's going to hey, you're such a nice guy, I'm going to give you $100 more than I have to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Why would you?
Who would do that? Well, you're better off giving $100, buy the card for what you can get if you're that generous. Donate the $100 to a charity, or, make a wish, or you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So, I've done it long enough to know you got to put your cards out at sort of where the market's at, or don't put it out there and get into that catch-22 where there's no way you come out of that looking good. When you're asking someone to pay over market price and you're telling them, hey, I got this much into it. What does that have to do with them? If a dealer said that to me, I said, that's great, but I mean, I had nothing to do with that. That was your deal,
And there are people that might pay their price because they don't do the homework. But a part of being a good tip for being a vintage guy, if you're getting into vintage, is do your bloody homework. Know what, if you're targeting certain cards, like you need to know in kind of the grade range that you're looking at, what Killebrews are going for by the time, it'll change a lot between now and the National, but a few days before, you need to go get reasonable comps so that you have an idea, plus or minus a little bit, depending on the eye appeal of the card. It's more than just the grade, right?
Yeah.
It's more than that, but you get my point. Speaking of the National, John, are you pretty excited?
I am. It was funny. I wasn't sure I was going to go. Sort of 50-50. I want to go to Vegas in September for the industry summit. As you know, I was just in Dallas. So I'm like, all these, I'm like the movie there with all the formulas and calculation. Like, can I pull these 3 trips off? Like, can I make this, work? And I don't know if you knew this. I think I told you the Dallas trip kind of came about when the Chicago National was sort of looking iffy.
Sure.
And like, you said, Brad said, Uncle Rich Klein's like, hey, the National ain't happening. We're doing this Dallas show. Come on down for that. At least you get, you know what I mean? You get the experience. So I booked that trip and that whole thing, kind of thinking the National wasn't going to happen. I mean, not that I wasn't rooting against it, but you sort of got to weigh your options. Hey, this is not right now. All the indications are they might change the date. So if they, I took time off, then they change the date, I'm probably not going to be able to swing the new date. Like, it's got to be either a go or probably not going to happen. So I did the Dallas thing, which I had a great time. Got to go to your house, which again, probably one of the pinnacles. And then, we got sort of the news started to trickle out that things were trending good. And the National was going to be a full go. And so I thought about it, like, can we do it? And, I'm a realist, I knew if I didn't sort of go, I would be here in Syracuse, like, sort of kicking myself or like being jealous of you and everyone else that's there. And I'm like, I said, all right, I like to do my like hotel and airfare kind of combos I use Expedia a lot, but those sort of Orbitz, Travelocity, and I'll use different ones depending on which gives you the best deal. And I had sort of an amount I could kind of budget just for hotel and airfare, and I actually got underneath what what I kind of targeted, and I said, man, and it was at the point, as like, hotels are drying up, like rooms are you're gonna have to stay further away now, and then those further away places are not gonna have shuttles, and so now you got to factor in Uber or Lyft or rent a car, and now your itinerary starts costing more. And so matter of fact, the hotel I wound up booking, it was at least they were saying it was the last room they had, and I'm like, you're either doing this or you're not doing it. So
right.
I pulled the trigger, and I knew you gotta kind of go. I hate to say it like that. I know a lot of people unfortunately aren't going to be able to go for financials, and I'm sensitive to that. I'm not doing a na boo boo thing, but I also knew like I'd want to be there, and if I didn't go, I'd sort of be like, why didn't you do it when you had the chance, kind of thing. And so now the question becomes, can I do Vegas? It's almost like the Triple Crown, right? You know what I mean? The leg. So I pulled off the first 2, and can I pull off Vegas too? I don't know. We'll see. I'll worry about that.
Have you been to the summit before?
No, I've never been. As crazy as it sounds, Chicago. I'm a New York City kid. Chicago is the furthest west I've been in the United States. And I've been to other countries like Belize. I don't know how west they are in the hemisphere. Mexico, Roatan, Honduras. But in the states wise, the furthest west I've ever been is Chicago 3 or 4 times. But I've never been. Or Dallas. I don't know which is now Dallas. I don't know which one.
Now Dallas. It's now Dallas.
All right. So Dallas is the furthest west I've been. And so if I do get to go to Vegas, obviously that'll take the further west belt.
And when that occurs. Even technically you came to Fort Worth, and they say Fort Worth is where the West begins. That's the theme
line
for our city here. So man. So as we wrap up here, John, great conversation with you. I love just talking.
Yeah.
You and I can talk. We've learned.
We don't need a script. We didn't throw the scripts
really
out.
We could talk for hours and hours, and we have so much in common, which I tell people all the time. If you look hard enough, you're going to find something in common with people in this hobby, no matter what they collect. You got to be open-minded, and I promise you will find some common ground with everyone. And even though, I mean, look at this, a Cowboys fan and a Steelers fan are having a conversation. That's pretty terrific. But tell everybody where they can find you, John, out there in social media world, and how they can look you up.
I'll make it simple, and I'll save a little time. If you Google Sports Card Nation pod and you want to throw the podcast on the end of that, it's all individual words, Sports Card Nation podcast. All our stuff usually pops up right on the top, especially if you use Google. And the podcast itself is on all major platforms. So whatever your weapon of choice is to listen to your podcast that you like, we're on there. Fridays, along with you, we come out with Sports Card Nation, which is an interview guest show, usually about an hour to an hour and a half long. That's every Friday. And on Monday, we do a shorter version called Hobby Quick Hits, which is 10 to 25 minutes. It's me, one topic, just kind of boom, bang, in and out as fast as I can. And that's on Monday. So kind of start the week, end the week, Monday, Friday. Monday shorter, kind of ease you in, less of me to consume. And then Friday, always with a guest. You've been gracious enough to come on, and we'll have you obviously on. Won't be the only time. And I always say with the Friday show, less of me and more of the guest is the recipe. So,
and then you're part of Hobby Hotline on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's
yeah. Oh yeah, this is overkill of John Newman. I think Saturday mornings. 11 a.m. Eastern, Hobby Hotline, which is a conglomerate of all different content creators. It's really a fun show to do. We all kind of take turns. So we're all on about once a month. So I'm on like once a month. The other guys are on it once a month. And Saturday morning, people can call in, kind of come on the screen. Dr. Beckett comes on once a month. Brian Gray will come on about once a month. And it's a great a lot of fun, and the people we meet and talk to, and having Dr. Beckett obviously on and Brian on is it's kind of, let's be real, it's pretty fun, and got to know them better, and and as you said, we're going to be kicking out a lot of pressure on us. We're kicking off that show's kicking off Hobby Palooza on I believe July 10th, and that's
right. You're the Ricky Henderson of Hobby Palooza.
Let's hope we hit a leadoff home run, and rather than the walk, even though a walk's not the worst thing in the world. But we're gonna stick to the. I told everyone, we got a lot of people like to talk, myself included. I'm like 60 minutes, guys. We got to be hard to the 60 minutes. So like the show 60 minutes. So.
Right.
But we'll do it. Knowing the parameters, we'll get it done, and it's going to be fun. I think what we'll do that week, is I didn't want, we have about 10 different people involved with that show, and it's a big thing to be asked to do that and be part of Hobby Palooza. I didn't want to just have 3 or 4 guys on and have to tell 6 people, hey, it's not your week, and so you can have 10 guys on the screen. 10 people on the screen. So we're going to open it up to all our hosts that can be there. I believe Dr. Beckett, I talked to him today. I don't want to speak for him yet officially, but I believe he's going to be one of those gentlemen you'll see in the screen. That'd be nice to have him be involved to start. I know he's going to be involved too in other facets, but so the thing is getting 10 of us on the screen. We're going to definitely have to coordinate. Hey, now let's not talk over each other, and maybe limit answers to 30, 45 seconds. And, it's stuff we can all work out. That's the fun of it, is getting all the parameters worked out. But we're honored to do it. We're privileged to do it. And we thank you guys for inviting us and asking us. And we're going to hopefully do it justice.
You will. It'll be great. And again, looking forward to that July 10th and 11th, Hobbypalooza, getting everybody jazzed up for the National, just getting to know a bunch of other people on YouTube that you may have not heard of before. It's just a great event. Did it last year for the first time, and looking forward to year 2 of that. So, man, John, thanks for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is fun. Now when I see you at the National, we'll probably just see each other and just look at each other. We won't have anything to talk about.
What's up? No, what you're talking about. And there better be some, frosty cold beverage, Yeah.
We can buy each other, take turns buying one of those, and
there you go.
Kind of compare notes. What did you get, and how did I do? So
that'll be great.
That's always fun. So.
All right, my friend. Well, thanks again. And thanks to everybody out there for listening and watching. If you're on YouTube, really appreciate it. Go check out John at Sports Card Nation. He does a lot of great interviews. I love all the hobby news and everything he puts at the beginning of the show. It's really well done. So congrats to you, John, for all your success. And we'll catch you guys soon. So,
all right.
See you next week. Keep collecting.
All right, I'm going to go listen.